Hello and welcome to another edition of the Full Force News Burst, brought to you by GeneralsJoes.com, with me as your host, Chris, sliding down a big plastic tube McLeod, aka Diagnostic 80. Joining me today to discuss the news that Hasbro will be featuring G.I. Joe themed rides at their Malaysian Water Park is Justin, showing off splashing around Belle. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this watery news burst. Splash. Earlier today, a number of reports surfaced, get it, of the licensing agreement signing ceremony for the world's first Hasbro water theme park in Malaysia. The indoor water park and family resort, set to open by 2022, will feature themed rooms, indoor water attractions, entertainment and food offerings inspired by Hasbro's brands, including My Little Pony, bit harsh, if they're going to have
There's
food
no
offerings.
way any of that could go wrong.
Mr. Potato Head, again, really harsh. Nerf, bit chewy. Elephant and Friends, which I've never really heard of. Mousetrap, gross. I'm not eating anything that's been trapped like a mouse. Monopoly, Candyland, okay, now we're talking. Hungry Hippos, oh my god, that has to happen as well. Magic the Gathering, Play-Doh, Dungeons and Dragons, Battleship, and of course, G.I. Joe. Hasbro's Senior Vice President Consumer Products, Casey Collins, said, "We are thrilled to work with Imagine's deeply experienced, I like that, leadership team to bring Hasbro brands to life in exciting new ways. Our goal is to bring engaging brand experiences to audiences everywhere, and we are confident that Imagine's new resort and water park will provide families with a memorable one-of-a-kind experience. Imagine Hotels and Resorts will co-conceptualise, build, create and operate the resort in partnership with the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Malaysia. The move has been well documented already, but it's good to see movement on the project, which is set for a 2022 opening, and with the G.I. Joe movie in the works, we might get to see some awesome themed rides." What are your thoughts on this one, Justin? Excited to slide down the Hydro Viper? I mean,
if they don't have like some kind of, if their dining room tables aren't with like yellow flippers with little hippo heads shooting out to eat pellets, then I'm not going.
How amazing would that be? I mean, okay, well, in your mind, what does a G.I. Joe water slide look like?
I have a whole different thing in mind when I hear about water sports that probably isn't appropriate to discuss on this podcast. But
too late. We've already discussed it now. So.
Yeah, it's tough because, I know what I'd like to see. I mean, obviously you want to see some really cool G.I. Joe themed water vehicles that, like a whale or a hydrofoil or something like that would be really cool if they had like a log flume where you're sitting on, an orange devilfish or whatever.
Oh my god, you're pulling out all the classics here, mate.
So, I mean, that would be perfect. I mean, that would be a really awesome way to kind of tie everything together. But the only problem with that is that, Joe Schmo is going to see that and not really even know what the hell is going on. But
well, G.I. Joe Schmo, he can still enjoy it.
There you go.
Are you surprised this hasn't been created in the USA first? I mean, do you expect Hasbro to open parks on US soil if the venture is a successful one?
I would think so. I mean, yeah, and I won't say I know the country of Malaysia inside and out. I didn't realize that it was a big tourist destination. And I mean, I know they've got obviously some sort of tourism draw there. I'm not sure what precisely why people are going to Malaysia beyond going to ride on a G.I. Joe water park.
I imagine a lot of it's got to do with the amount of people there already and obviously I suppose it's kind of in close proximity to a number of other kind of big markets around there that obviously if they can tap into that, no pun intended. I'm pulling out all of the water jokes tonight, aren't I? But if they can tap into that, then they can make a big splash.
You're awful.
I'm gonna stop doing this now. Okay, well, I mean, will you be attending the Malaysian park when it opens?
Yeah, I can't say I'll be making the international trip over to Malaysia to ride on Snake Eye's lap to go down a water flume.
Could you imagine though? Could you imagine us all? Like the full force team in their swimwear. We can knock out a new calendar as well while we're out there.
Yeah, there you go.
Get Brian Hickey to take some sexy pictures of us. I mean,
what action force vehicles would be on a water park?
It'd be Q Force everywhere, wouldn't it? It'd be like the sea lion and the swordfish. Oh my god, it would be amazing. Anyway. This has gone way beyond what I wanted it to be, which is just even better. I mean, are Hasbro getting in too deep with this theme park? Yeah?
Yes. Yes, if you ask me what is Hasbro's global brand strategy with GI Joe, I will have to say Malaysian theme park is probably not very high on my list of.
Malaysian Water Theme Park
Oh,
as well.
yeah, exactly. Malaysian Water Theme Park, yes.
I must admit, I am very, very jealous that it's going to be out in 2022 in Malaysia, and we aren't going to see anything for, well, I don't know how long it would be, but you've got to factor in the logistics of
Yeah,
creating
exactly,
something like
yeah.
this. They've obviously, they've got Imagine Resorts, which is who they're going to be building that with. They're obviously in league with Malaysian government as well. This is like a whole, the
Yep.
whole tourism kind of industry there. So there's a good backing there to get this built and done and knocked out in 2022. Who would they have to see who would they have to team up with in the US for this kind of stuff? I mean, you're looking at already established water parks, aren't you? Like Six Flags and
Well, yeah, I mean that's typically what we've done. I mean, when you did like the Superman ride and the Batman ride and stuff, that was all at Six Flags. That was at like an existing. I mean, I know that's not a water park necessarily, but it's that sort of same idea. So you would think that'd be kind of what they'd be doing is GI Joe the ride and transform. Where wasn't there a Transformers ride already that was at Universal Studios or something?
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly
Yeah.
where it was, but it would have to be something like that.
when we talk about Transformers and blooming Micronauts, I mean, who knows with the licensing and the brand and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. It's kind of all over the place, isn't it? Really.
Exactly.
Another thing I should note is the fact that the GI Joe logo, the vintage logo, has been utilized on the branding, and does not necessarily mean anything really, because we have already seen that kind of black and white version of the vintage logo kind of come back almost.
Mm-hmm.
Into Hasbro's branding for the brand.
Right.
I'm going to stop saying brand.
Between brand and splash, this is like.
Between brand and water jokes. I mean, this is another step in Hasbro's plan to further push into a fully fledged entertainment company. Do you see them succeeding in this goal?
I don't know. I mean, I want to be optimistic, but is Hasbro enough of a force where it's going to be a destination sort of company? I mean, I see most places kind of developing their brand outside of the water park / theme park first, and then that kind of becomes, once the brand has some awareness. I just can't even imagine anybody in Malaysia. I mean, I know Hasbro's probably going to sell it with the Transformers brand and stuff like that. So maybe I'm looking too much into like the GI Joe angle, because Hasbro obviously does have some international brands, pretty well-known brands that would attract an audience. But I'm just having a hard time really seeing kind of how GI Joe plays into this, or how do you sell a Hasbro water park where they would probably capitalize on a big name like Transformers as the main attraction, and then where does everything else kind of fit in as somebody who's going to a show? Or actually, is Transformers even included in this? I'm trying to remember.
I don't think so. No, because of the tie-ups with all the other license.
Exactly. So I mean, they don't even have that as a draw. So I can't. Beyond Transformers, I can't even think of a brand that really matches this kind of demographic. I mean, yes, they have well-known brands like Mr. Potato Head, like you mentioned, and
My Little Pony,
and Nerf, and My Little Pony, but how does any of that translate to a water park in any kind of meaningful way? That I don't know. It seems like they're kind of trying to take what happened at HasCon, and we all went to HasCon and kind of saw their branded, obstacle course for Nerf and some different things like that. But that was, pretty small potatoes, no pun intended, compared to doing a global water park. So I'm not sure how they're going to take that, kind of small success and translate it and scope it out to being this massive international destination. So
of course they are opening. So they're opening those kind of arenas in the US, aren't they? Or they're supposed to be. I mean, that was something we reported on not too long ago.
Right.
Basically, family entertainment centers is what they're called.
Yeah.
And we also reported on the fact that there was a specific Nerf setup as well that they're kind of going forward with. Again, like that would be in the US. So okay, like I understand that, to a degree, that makes a lot of sense. With the water park, it's such a one-off random thing that even if it's really super successful out there, which, I mean, it could be and it's great, it's so far removed from what's going on elsewhere in the world with Hasbro. I just find it really, I find it a really odd kind of setup. You know how when we talk about theme parks and water parks and things like that, certain things spring to mind, and that's like specialized theme parks like Six Flags and Mountain Creek and all of those different kind of, localized water parks around the United States, and to a lesser degree like Center Parks in the UK and things like that, which is more about living out in lodges and stuff, and there's also a water park destination there. But when it comes to theme parks, all I think of is Disney. It's like, if you're competing with Disney, then just give up. Why bother? I feel like this is a pick your battles kind of scenario. And while Disney kind of control the theme park, setup, and you're only talking about a few destinations around the world, but it just, they dominate it for that. Then how do Hasbro see? I suppose maybe that is an area that they can operate in without much in the way of competition.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Hasbro, as usual, seems kind of scattershot in their philosophies and kind of what they're trying to accomplish. I mean, they don't seem to have a clear and distinct strategy. They'll sit there and tell you, well, our strategy now is the cinematic universe, and that lasts for a year or two, and then it kind of fades away. Or our strategy now is American, amusement centers, and then that kind of fades away. Or our strategy now is Malaysian water parks, and that kind of fades away. And our strategy now is Battleship the movie, or Monopoly the movie, or Ouija board the movie, and then that kind of fades away. And you can almost, even as a consumer, even if somebody who isn't, kind of deeply invested in their brand, you can tell it's just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and hoping something sticks. That's just kind of the gist I get. So, and maybe this will be incredibly successful, and maybe you're right. Maybe they're trying to kind of work, rather than compete endlessly against established competition, maybe they are trying to work their way into an area that they don't see much competition, and the Hasbro brand would just kind of be a side effect of doing of opening a successful water park. It's going to be a successful water park that just happens to be Hasbro branded.
I wonder who had the idea. I wonder who said, let's do a water park. Let's do a themed water park. Who came up with that idea? I think it could either be the most genius thing ever or the dumbest thing in human history. I suppose we'll find out.
Yeah.
And again, if I had all the answers, I'd be working there and sorting them out, and I'm not. But it's just interesting that this is the way they go with it. And if this is the future, if that's what we're expected to see now, then great. I kind of feel like this would have benefited Toys R Us to a dramatic degree, like the kind of family entertainment centres, which obviously we're not talking about at the moment, but in the same ilk, would have been great for Toys R Us as well, if they'd have had little mini Toys R Us Expresses set up in like a little branded arena like that. I mean, they would have that would have been so much better, so much more successful than the model they were kind of operating under.
Right.
But that would have taken a huge amount of logistical, that would have been a logistical nightmare sorting all that stuff out. I mean, they had the real estate space, but anyway, that's a different talk for a different day. Is it important? Last one. Is it important to you that the G.I. Joe brand is still clearly in Hasbro's plans?
Oh, I think that's a big thing. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that they're including that in whatever they're developing here. I mean, it's good. I think obviously they're also trying to capitalize on whatever internal brands they have, and G.I. Joe is one of those. But yeah, I mean, anytime the G.I. Joe gets mentioned in this sort of thing, it's a positive sign.
Awesome. And do you expect this all to tie into the Snake Eyes movie?
Absolutely. Ray Park is going to be at the water park every day, and you will sit on his lap and ride down the log chute.
I mean, they've got about just over 2 years to sort this out, right?
Yeah.
So you'd think...
Yeah, I mean, at the rate they're going, they'll be opening the water park before they even announce the G.I. Joe movie.
Before they announce the casting.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, they'd have finished filming, and then we'll get who's involved in it. Unfortunately, they won't have been involved in filming.
Surprise, the movie comes out in 6 months. We've already filmed it. Here's nobody you've ever heard of starring as...
Here's a guy we found outside.
A homeless dude shaved up and put a hood on. He's Cobra Commander.
But that actually could work.
Yeah, there you go.
I could see that. Anyway, Justin, thank you for jumping on
Sure.
for this rather wet and wild installment of the Full Force Newsburst.
You're a terrible person.
That's it for this rather wet and wild installment of the Full Force Newsburst. Thank you to my awesome co-host, Justin Wet Bell. See you next time, and as always, full force. I mean, I've run out of things to say. So, full Q-Force.
Oh, there you go. Now, does Hasbro own Super Soaker? I'm surprised that they're not a part of this.
I missed that. Super Soaker's a Nerf thing, so yeah, it is, right?
Yeah, it would have been. Yep.
Anyway, yeah, full Super Soaker Force. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback or questions. We have also started a Patreon page, so if you want to see your name up in lights on these videos or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/TheFullForce podcast or click the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.